Chapter 1580. Feng Lianya's hidden agenda, for even her heart did not hurt as much as before. And all of this was because of Feng Ruqing. The cultivation she had taught her was really useful, or at least made her understand that there were more meaningful things in her life than just men. Well, Feng Ruqing stood up from inside the pavilion. "Let's go." Helian Yu obediently followed Feng Ruqing as she stood up, silently following behind her. General manner. Feng Lianya's face darkened, her hand tightly squeezing the teacup in her hand. That little girl, Qi is still alive. And the person who had saved her was Feng Ruqing? If I continue like this, I will lose all the respect in Wushang City in the future. She took a deep breath and stood up from her chair. Since Feng Lianqing and that woman would not help her, she would find a way to do it herself. It was Feng Ruqing who had offended her first anyway. She was just treating her the way she deserved. Thinking of this, Feng Lianyi headed out the door. From afar, she could see the old housekeeper arranging the flowers and plants in the back garden. She smiled and walked toward the old housekeeper. "Old housekeeper, when will General and Big Brother Feng return?" When the old housekeeper turned back, he saw Feng Lianyi standing behind him. He smiled. "I don't know. Does Maiden Lianyi have something to discuss with General?" "No, I'm just asking because I haven't seen General for a long time." Feng Lianyi smiled faintly. "Do you know where General went?" The old housekeeper smiled. "Maiden Lianyi should not ask me because I don't know anything about it." Feng Lianya's face stiffened. She also understood that asking him was useless. As long as Tianya would not return in these few days, it was enough. If Tianya returned, many things would be revealed, so it would be hard for her to make any move. Me for extra chapters. I got it, thank you. Feng Lianyi smiled brightly. She stopped talking and walked away. She clenched her fists tightly as she walked past the old housekeeper. Her face turned cold as if there was a monstrous storm coming to her. "Feng Ruqing, you have forced me to do this." There were two things that one should never mess with in Wushang City, and both had to do with Tianya. First, no one could mess with Tianya's cats, and if anyone dares to touch his cats, it would be like pulling the hair out of a tiger's head. The second one was, Tianya owned a jade necklace with the word Feng engraved on it. Everyone knew about it, but no one dared to touch it. Every time Tianya showed off, he would take out this jade necklace, claiming that it was personally created for his granddaughter. If he did not have a granddaughter, this jade necklace, he would not give it to anyone. Everyone said that Tianya would always bring that jade necklace with him, but does he really bring that with him? Feng Lianyi smirked. The sunset in Wushang City glowed warmly. Feng Ruqing suddenly stopped in her tracks. She raised her eyes and stared at the woman approaching her from not far away. Helian Yu quickly followed her eyes and saw a girl in a long green dress heading toward them. Her sweet face changed dramatically, and she subconsciously took a few steps forward, trying to protect Feng Ruqing who was behind her. "Feng Lianyi, what are you doing here?" Chapter 1581. Feng Lianya's banquet. Feng Lianya's eyes sank as she saw the worry on Helian Yu's face. Over the years, she knew Helian Yu very well. This girl had no friends since she was a child, and only Feng Lianqing would take care of her. She had also never seen Helian Yu being nice to any woman. It seemed that Feng Ruqing was indeed powerful. Not only Feng Lianqing and the little prince, even this Helian Yu was also enchanted by her. "Sister Helen?" Feng Lianyi tried to control her emotions. She smiled pleasingly and walked toward Helian Yu. "I've thought about a lot of things these days, and I remembered all the things that General has taught me. I know that it was indeed my fault, so I came here today sincerely to meet Maiden Feng. Can Maiden Feng give me another chance?" Her gaze was so sincere that one could not refuse it. But even a simple and brainless girl like Helian Yu, after seeing the sudden change in Feng Lianyi, could not help but give her a suspicious glance, clearly not believing her words. "Feng Lianyi, what else do you want to do?" Helian Yu's face was slightly sunken, but before she could finish her words, the young girl's voice sounded behind her. "Fine, I accept your apology." What? Helian Yu was stunned. She looked at Feng Ruqing, confused. She accepts the apology from Feng Lianyi? Xiaoqing is the kind of person who curses someone for the rest of their lives if they cursed her once. Accepting an apology from Feng Lianyi? She could believe it if other people did that, but Xiaoqing, a person who always held a grudge forgiving someone else this easily? Feng Lianyi was stunned as well. She had already thought a lot of nice words to say if Feng Ruqing rejected her, but she had accepted it before she could say those words seriously? This demon is quite surprising. Me for extra chapters. But Feng Lianyi did not want to let this opportunity go. She cleared her mind and smiled widely. Maiden Feng, I think you have never visited General Manor, and I guess Brother Feng has never invited you. I wonder if I would have the honor to invite Maiden Feng to visit General Manor? The smile on Feng Lianyi's face was so sincere that no one could see any problem with it. No. Helian Yu snorted and refused without even thinking about it. Feng Lianyi is a bad girl. Who knows if she has planned something evil? Xiaoqing, Helian Yu turned her head and looked at Feng Ruqing. Grandfather Tianya isn't in General Manor. There's no point in going there, and we might as well, I'll go. Feng Ruqing interrupted Helian Yu's words with a faint smile. I accept your invitation. Helian Yu was completely confused. Did Xiaoqing take the wrong medicine today? Xiaoqing, she was a little anxious, stared at Feng Lianyi fiercely, then turned to look at Feng Ruqing. Feng Lianyi is not a good person. She's so vicious, and she's worse than the little fatty. At least the little fatty has a good heart, but she always has bad intentions. Feng Lianyi's face darkened. She looked at Helian Yu coldly. If it were not for General, she would never have tolerated this woman slandering her like this in front of her. Chapter 1582, Feng Lianyi's Banquet 2. Who in this world doesn't know that Helian Yu of the Helian family has been bullying people and enraging gods? How dare you say I'm full of evil? Ridiculous. There was once only one evil person in Wushang City, Helian Yu, and now there was another one called Feng Ruqing. Maiden Feng, Feng Lianyi smiled faintly, restraining the hate in her heart. Tonight I will hold a banquet at General Manor to express my apology to Maiden Feng, and I hope that Maiden Feng will come. Feng Ruqing smirked. Don't worry. I will go. With this assurance from Feng Ruqing, Feng Lianyi said no more. She smiled and turned around. But in just a few seconds, her smile had faded, and her face turned cold. Xiaoqing, Helian Yu's heart sank. I don't believe that Feng Lianyi would feel sorry for what she had done. If she is sincere, she won't harm the little fatty again. Helian Yu did not like the little fatty at first. She was also arrogant and domineering, and she was not used to seeing the same people as her. Besides, she always felt that the little fatty was trying to snatch Xiaoqing from her. However, because of Feng Ruqing, she and the little fatty could be considered companions now, not to mention that both of them hated Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi had tried to use her back then, and now she had harmed the little fatty. Anyway, Helian Yu was sure that Feng Lianyi was the person behind the little fatty's punishment. I'm tired. Feng Ruqing yawned lazily and smiled. I want to rest. I'm afraid I won't be able to get a good rest tonight. She left these words and no longer paid attention to the puzzled Helian Yu, slowly walking toward the manor. Helian Yu slightly frowned. She could not figure it out and no longer thought about it. It was night. The gentle moonlight poured down like water. Me for extra chapters. The banquet hall in General Manor was bustling. Young men were holding their folding fans, laughing cheerfully with the people next to them. The shy and crisp laughter of young girls was like bells that reverberated throughout the manor. Feng Lianyi sat with these young girls smilingly. Initially, with her identity, she would not be able to invite these people as guests, but who did not know that she was a member of General Manor, and who in this world dared to disrespect Tianya? The people of Wushang City valued strong men. As a general, Tianya was so powerful, and no one could take over his status in Land of No Return. Maiden Lianyi, why did you invite us here tonight? Could it be that General and Master Lianqing have returned? They all whispered to each other, not knowing why Feng Lianyi had called them here today. Feng Lianyi restrained her smirk and said, Gentlemen, I made a mistake some time ago. I'm sure you must have heard about it when Brother Feng had almost harmed the little prince. I was worried and afraid that the emperor would punish Brother Feng, so I had put all the blame on a girl. The people present were only half aware of this matter, but now that Feng Lianyi had said it in public, they were a bit surprised. But on the day when I went to apologize, that girl was annoyed and kicked me out, so I guess I was not sincere enough. I am holding this big banquet tonight for her to express my sincere apology. She planned the banquet at the very last minute. Fortunately, Feng Lianqing was not in general manner, so the servants would naturally listen to her. People always make mistakes. What Maiden Lianyi had done was not a big deal. But why does that girl keep bothering Maiden Lianyi? A young man filled with anger stood out among the crowd, speaking for Feng Lianyi. Master Zhang, who doesn't know that Maiden Lianyi is a nice girl? Maiden Lianyi personally went to that woman's place to apologize, and that girl still treated her like that. If she can't be nice with Maiden Lianyi, at least she should respect General Tianya. After all, Maiden Lianyi is a member of General Manor. General is highly respected in Wushang City. Even the emperor admired him. I don't know where she found the courage to treat Maiden Lianyi like this. Feng Lianyi lowered her eyes and smirked. I know why she's so courageous. Suddenly, a voice rang out, causing everyone to look at the woman who had just spoken. The woman had a soft face, but she was not considered as a beauty. She pursed her lips and sighed helplessly. The woman you are talking about, I know her? Recently, my cousin Helian Yu always hangs out with her all day long. I don't know what kind of mesmerizing drug she gave my cousin to make Helian Yu obey her like that. Helian Ing, are you telling the truth? A young man asked darkly. Helian Ing smiled bitterly. I don't know the details. Back then, I didn't know what had happened. Yue was rarely at home. I didn't trust her, so I followed her to take a look, and later I found out that she was with that woman and that there were some spirit beasts in that woman's yard. Spirit beasts. The crowd recalled the day when the spirit beasts attacked the city and could not help but shudder. No wonder she is so daring to be so arrogant. I thought she was using those spirit beasts to threaten people, but her spirit beasts are not as strong as the people of General Manor. After all, those powerful spirit beasts in the Spirit Beast Mountain belong to the Nan family. Now it seems that it's because of Helian Yu. Tisk, what good can come out of hanging around that little witch Helian Yu? Both of them are just the same. Look, Maiden Lianyi has organized a big banquet to apologize to her today, and she's late. Me for extra chapters. After hearing these words, Feng Lianyi's face sank slightly. Could it be that Feng Ruqing was not coming? If she did not come, what would happen to her plan? And how she was going to ruin her? They'll send someone to take a look. Feng Lianyi chuckled. Maybe she overslept before she came. It's normal for a pregnant woman to sleep so much. The young man who spoke for her just now could not help but sneer. Even a pregnant woman can be so lacking in virtue, bullying a woman as good as Maiden Lianyi. I don't think whatever she is carrying in her belly is good either, and whether she can carry to term is not yet certain. Maiden Lianyi had come to the door to admit her mistake, but she kicked her out. As expected, those who hung out with Helian Yu were all rude. Having a vicious mother like her was so unlucky. It seemed that the child she was carrying in her womb would not be carried to term safely. Chapter 1584. Feng Lianyi's banquet. For the others were slightly stunned when they heard the young man's words. Except for Helian Ing and Feng Lianyi, those people all felt that his words were a bit too much. That girl was not a good person, but the child was innocent. It was not fair to curse an unborn child like that. Why should the child bear the mother's fault? However, when they saw the anger in the young man's eyes, they sighed softly. Zhang Yang was the weakest of them all. Rumor had it that Tianya was so strict with Feng Lianyi because he loved her like his own granddaughter. As such, Zhang Yang naturally wanted to use this opportunity to please Feng Lianyi to get close to General Tianya. He believed that if Tianya could help him, his cultivation speed would become faster, and he would become stronger. Master Zhang, Feng Lianyi smiled faintly. It was my fault and it has nothing to do with her. If she rejects my apology, I will use my sincerity to touch her. I believe she will understand, and as for her child, Feng Lianyi paused and smiled helplessly. Whether it's alive or dead, It has nothing to do with us. Master Zhang should not drag an innocent child into this matter. Zhang Yang smiled and said, Maiden Liani, someone like that is not worthy of you speaking for her. She's cruel and vicious, no different from that little witch from the Hellion family. As soon as he said those words, a brick flew in from the door and hit Zhang Yang's head. With a thud, Zhang Yang's vision turned blank, and he almost passed out. Blood flowed from his head. He covered the back of his head and turned around furiously. Suddenly, he was stunned, unable to say any word. The others also turned their gaze, and the entire hall became silent. The little witch of the Hellion family was still holding a brick in her hand, standing in the doorway fiercely. Her eyes were filled with rage as she glared at Zhang Yang murderously. Me for extra chapters. However, the people looked past the little witch and at the other two people behind her. The moonlight was clear and cold. A young girl in a red dress, standing in the moonlight, looked so stunning. Her beauty was so captivating that even the cold moonlight could not dim that. The man next to her was dressed in white, as handsome as an immortal, noble and cold. Who did you just say was cruel and vicious? Hellion Yu's eyes were filled with rage. Who is the little witch that you're talking about just now? Zhang Yang, are you itching again? Do you need me to hang you up and continue whipping you? Zhang Yang did not dare to speak. Between Hellion Yu and Feng Liani, he would always stand on Feng Lianya's side. After all, Hellion Yu was from the Hellion family and Feng Liani. Her surname was Feng, which was the same as Feng Lianqing. However, that old master of the Hellion family was so unreasonable, he was simply inhumane. Therefore, facing Hellion Yu's anger, he did not dare to resist in any way. Fortunately, Hellion Yu came a bit late and did not hear his previous words of cursing the child. Otherwise, his life would have been ended by her tonight. Hellion, Feng Ruqing called faintly. Hellion Yu immediately dropped the brick and obediently stood next to Feng Ruqing. Her big eyes blinked cutely like a little puppy. Chapter 1585. Feng Lianya's banquet. Yes, Shaoqing? Feng Ruqing glanced at her smilingly. Do you want to see a good show? Yes. Shaoqing said that if she followed her tonight, she could watch a good show. So she tagged along even though she did not want to see Feng Liani anymore. Then stand aside. All right, Shaoqing. Hellion Yu was so obedient, and if she had a tail, it would be wagging. Of course, Zhang Yang was so lucky that Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian did not hear his previous words. Otherwise, this banquet would have come to an end today. The crowd was dumbfounded as they looked at the well-behaved and soft little girl. Everyone called her the little witch because no one in Wushang City could control her. The old master of the Hellion family had always supported her. Even Tianya could not control her, and no one had ever seen her being so obedient even when she was Feng Lianqing. Are you Hellion Yu? Among the crowd, a girl opened her mouth to ask weakly. Hellion Yu glared at her, frightening that girl into immediately shutting her mouth. That's right. She's exactly Hellion Yu. Just look at her fierce eyes. Feng Ruqing raised her eyes and looked at the little girl who had just asked that question. Well, she's cute and looks like Qing Ling. Hellion Yu, be gentle with girls, Feng Ruqing said, expressionlessly. Hellion Yu and Nan Xian were stunned. Somehow, that girl suddenly felt a cold eye sweep over to her after hearing Feng Ruqing's words. She trembled and hugged her arms. However, she could not help but look up at Feng Ruqing again, confused. It seems like this girl, she's not as evil as they said. She and Hellion Yu were not the same person. All right, Shaoqing. Hellion Yu was a little reluctant, but she still listened to Feng Ruqing. Hellion Yu actually looked like Gui. But, of course, Feng Ruqing turned to Zhang Yang and the others. You can be fierce when it comes to men. You can kill them after this banquet ends. Everyone was speechless. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruqing continued, you kill people, and I will bury that body for you. Don't worry, just do it boldly. They'll back you up if anything happens. Hellion Yu was slightly stunned and smiled at Feng Ruqing. In this life, no one had ever said such words to her before. Some people really need to be beaten up, and she never felt like she was beating up the wrong people. Everyone except her grandfather would blame her. Her grandfather would indeed tolerate all of her actions, protecting her for so many years, but the only one who said such things to her was Feng Ruching. Helian Yu lowered her head, bitterness spreading in her mouth. I wish Feng Ruching was a man. What she wanted to say was, if only Feng Lianqing could be the same as Feng Ruching, that would be great. But she did not want to mention Feng Lianqing again in front of so many people, so she changed her words. Who knew that her words had caused Nan Xian to misunderstand her? Nan Xian glanced at Helian Yu coldly, pulling Feng Ruching into his arms. It seemed like he would have to ask the old master to give him a third uncle and take this woman away. Just having a second uncle was not enough. Maiden Feng Lianyi sensed that the hall had suddenly become very quiet, and the people no longer spoke much. She was a little anxious. So she stood up and smiled. Since you're here, we can start the banquet now. I'm so grateful that Maiden Feng is willing to forgive me. Wait. Feng Ruching suddenly spoke. She frowned. When did I say that I forgive you? Feng Lianyi was stunned, her expression changing slightly. You came to General Manor, doesn't it mean you have accepted my apology? Oh, Feng Ruching calmly responded. I just wanted to look around. When did I ever accept your apology? You only asked me to come to General Manor. When did you say you were going to apologize? Feng Lianyi's expression changed once again. She pursed her lip tightly. Maiden Feng, we've agreed. If you come to General Manor, it means that you've accepted my apology. Why are you not keeping your word? Feng Lianyi. Helian Yu was furious and jumped up. Don't you dare accuse my Shaoqing. When did you ever say you wanted to apologize? How would I not have heard about that? At this moment, the entire banquet hall was silent. Those young girls and young men were also hindered by Helian Yu and did not dare to speak. Otherwise, they would end up like the Jia family. The Jia family had tried to harm Helian Yu. The old master of the Helian family found out about it and destroyed the Jia family's legacy. Perhaps, the Jia family would not be able to recover for another 100 years. If they helped Feng Lianyi this time, Helian Yu would be mad, and their family would be in danger. Zhang Yang had already taken a spirit herb to stop the blood in his head. He then looked around and saw no one defending Feng Lianyi. Without thinking too much, he stood up and said, Helian Yu, watch your mouth. Maiden Lianyi is so sincere to apologize. Why do you still hate her? None of these people dared to speak out against Helian Yu, and this was his best chance. Maiden Lianyi will see how loyal I am. Later, she will definitely praise me in front of General, and my Zhang family's status will rise dramatically. To him, Helian Yu was an outsider, which was why General was more tolerant of her. And of course, General would be more strict with Feng Lianyi because she was his family. Me for extra chapters. From General's attitude, it was obvious whose side he would take if Helian Yu had a conflict with Feng Lianyi. Helian Yu looked at Zhang Yang before lowering her head, trying to pick up the bricks on the ground. The moment Helian Yu was about to pick it up, Feng Ruching raised her hand and stopped her, smiling. Helian, this brick? It won't work. His head is a bit hard. Smashing him with this will not kill him. Helian Yu stood up and looked at Feng Ruching blankly. What should we do then? It's simple, boom. At that moment, countless vines spread out under Zhang Yang's feet. The vines were much thicker than before, wrapping Zhang Yang's feet and bring him into the air. Zhang Yang's body made a hole in the hall's roof and suddenly disappeared. It's finally quiet. A good show was about to start, and she did not want anyone to ruin it. All right. Feng Ruching clapped her hands and turned to look at those in the banquet hall who were stunned. Can we start? I'm a little hungry. Feng Lianyi's face darkened, but she still forced herself to smile. Maiden Feng, please sit down. It's a pity that there's only one seat here. Sister Helian, you can sit next to Sister Ing. 2 seats are left in the front seat, but the front seat is for this manor's owner. Maiden Feng, if you're not willing to sit with me, then Master Nan Xian can sit here. Chapter 1587. A moment of shame. She spoke cautiously, looking very guilty. Even if Nan Xian did not like her, she would use every means to separate them, even only for a moment. Nan Xian looked up at the two front empty seats before turning sideways to look at the other empty chair. After a silent moment, he slowly stepped forward, raised his hand and pulled a young man who was busy eating, fiercely throwing him out. Helian Yu was dumbfounded. Suddenly, after she regained her senses, she rushed over to the other person in the seat and slapped the table with her palms. "This is my seat. You get the hell over to Helianing." The man gulped, shocked by her words, and hurriedly picked up the plate in front of him, heading toward the other side of the seat without looking back. Helian Yu turned to Feng Lianyi and said proudly, "Good. Now there are 3 empty seats here." Feng Lianyi's smile looked a little stiff as she clenched her fists tightly. "Maiden Feng, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I didn't mean anything bad, so I hope Maiden Feng will not blame me." Feng Ruqing yawned lazily and ignored her. She then turned to the handsome man sitting next to her. "Nan Xian, I'm hungry." "Well, let's eat first." Nan Xian raised his hand and caressed Feng Ruqing's head, smilingly. His smile was as gentle as the moonlight. Feng Ruqing did not say anything more, lifted her skirt, and took her seat. Nan Xian sat next to her, but his cold eyes were fixed on Feng Lianyi. He glanced at her coldly and turned to the young girl next to him. "Qinger said there's a good show to watch and won't let me do anything." Seeing that no one was paying any attention to her, Feng Lianyi smiled awkwardly, turned around, and walked toward the front seat. However, before she could sit down properly, her chair suddenly smashed to pieces. She reached out in a panic, pressed down on the table, but unfortunately, the table flew over, and the dishes landed all over her. How wretched and embarrassing it was. Everyone was stunned, and no one noticed that Nan Xian had withdrawn his hands. "Me for extra chapters." Qinger said to not ruin the show, but I guess this will not count as ruining the show. He did not disobey his Qinger. Maiden Lianyi. The servants were shocked and quickly rushed forward to help Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi finally managed to stand up straight, but she did not notice that the ground was slippery and slipped again. His dress became dirty and messy. A soft sound of laughter came from the quiet crowd. Helian Yu laughed out loud and pointed at Feng Lianyi. "Feng Lianyi, you have done too much evil. This is simply a little punishment for you. Haha." Feng Lianyi clenched her fists tighter as she fought with all her might to restrain her anger. However, her eyes were like swords as she glanced at Feng Ruqing angrily. It was this woman who did it. She was just offering a seat to her husband, and she had deliberately retaliated against her. What was the difference between such a jealous woman and Helian Yu? Chapter 1588. A moment of shame. Two birds of the same feather flock together. Nan Xian, Feng Ruqing smiled. "The quality of these chairs is too poor. It seems I have to be more careful." Nan Xian calmly said, "You're thin, so you'll be fine. She's too fat, and the chair can't withstand her weight. Besides, you're so beautiful that even a chair can't bear to drop you. She's ugly, so of course, she won't get any pity even from a chair." The crowd was stunned. This man looks like a thoughtful man, but why do his words come out so harshly? Feng Lianyi bunched her sleeves tightly. The situation embarrassed her greatly, and with the mess she was in, she could not wait to find a hole to hide in immediately. She took a deep breath and laughed awkwardly. "Everyone, I'm really sorry. I'm going to change my dress and will come later." Feng Lianyi no longer wanted to be there and quickly dashed out of the banquet hall. After Feng Lianyi left, the banquet hall became lively again. The little girl from just now somewhat rushed over to Feng Ruqing's side. "You are not the same as what the rumors say." Feng Ruqing turned her head to look at this little girl. The little girl smiled. She did not even notice Nan Xian's cold face. "That day, when you attacked Wushang City with your spirit beasts, they all said you were vicious and evil, but now you look good." Feng Ruqing's face softened. She leaned back against her chair and smiled faintly. "Vicious and evil? That's right. You come and talk to me like this? Are you not afraid of Feng Lianyi?" The little girl was stunned. "But she said she came to you to apologize." Feng Ruqing shrugged and smiled at the little girl. The little girl bit her lip. "And I don't think you're a bad woman with what you've said to young Lady Helian just now." "Helian Yu," such an arrogant and overbearing person, was like a good little girl in front of Feng Ruching. Only Feng Ruching could restrain her temper. That was why the little girl felt like Feng Ruching was not a bad person. Me for extra chapters. Maiden Feng Ruching frowned. Call me Lady Nan. After hearing this, Nan Xian's cold face immediately softened a little. Yes, call her Lady Nan. The little girl was about to continue speaking when she suddenly saw that Feng Lianyi had changed into a beautiful dress and walked in through the door. When she saw the little girl standing next to Feng Ruching, she stared at her fiercely, causing the little girl to tremble and look confused. Isn't Maiden Lianyi here to apologize? Why do I feel like she hates Lady Nan? Now that everyone is here. So we can start now. Feng Lianyi smirked as she walked toward the front seat. Who says everyone's here? However, before she finished her word, she was interrupted by a faint laugh. Startled, she turned back blankly, looking at Feng Ruching. Suddenly, under the silence of the night, a sharp voice spoke, echoing across the sky and into everyone's ears. The Emperor and the Empress have arrived. The little prince and the fourth princess have arrived. Chapter 1589. A moment of shame. Feng Lianyi's face changed dramatically. She clenched her fists tightly, and her breathing grew heavier. She had not invited anyone from the palace. Why would they come? There was a sudden stir in the banquet hall. This is an apology banquet held by Feng Lianyi. Why is the emperor informed about it? What does this mean? Does it mean that General is really grooming Feng Lianyi as his heir? Who knew that in Wushang City, though General had accepted Feng Lianqing as his disciple, General was more interested in girls. Feng Lianyi's strength was honestly not as good as Feng Lianqing's, yet it was much better than ordinary people. Moreover, General had always been strict with her, even stricter than with Feng Lianqing. Even if she had not taken Feng Lianyi as his disciple, she was still an important member of General Manor. Why has the emperor come? The people in the crowd began to whisper. I didn't see the emperor at Feng Lianqing's banquets back then. Could it be that the general really wants to make Feng Lianyi the heir? What about Master Lianqing? He's General Tian Ya's disciple. I don't know. Besides, Maiden Lianyi is like Tian Ya's adopted granddaughter. It's just that General's ancestral tablets aren't here and, therefore, couldn't get her into the family. Thus, he had never declared it. Think about it. Maiden Lianyi is not a servant or a guard in General Manor, and everyone else calls her Maiden Lianyi. What is it if it's not a granddaughter's identity? Indeed, between the disciple and granddaughter. Of course, the granddaughter is more important. Everyone looked at each other, let out a sigh. Someone winked at the little girl from before, indicating that she should keep a distance from Feng Ruching. The little girl was a bit hesitant, but in the end she did not move away. General Tianya was not rude and protective. He had always been a good and honest man. They were no longer allowed to think about it as Qi Fang had already brought the Empress and the others in. Me for extra chapters. Apart from Feng Ruching and Nan Xian, who was still calmly enjoying the feast, everyone else had kneeled on the ground. Respect to your majesty, Empress? The little prince and the fourth princess. The voice echoed throughout the hall. The people who followed behind Qi Fang were the eunuchs and guards of the palace and the old housekeeper of General Manor. He could not help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead as he panicked. Today, Feng Lianyi had suddenly come and told him that she wanted to hold a banquet. He thought it was only a small meeting for the young girls, so he did not care much about it. However, he did not expect that it would draw the emperor and the empress here. Please come. Qi Fang made an inviting gesture and looked back at the Empress. Empress, you and I. The Empress walked away from Qi Fang, not even sparing him a glance. All eyes were on her as she smiled and walked toward Feng Ruching. Maiden Feng, I heard that Feng Lianyi is holding a banquet to apologize to you today. I was worried that Feng Lianyi is using her power to force you to accept her apology, so I come to check on you. There was silence in the banquet hall. Some people had stood up when they heard the Empress' words. They began to shiver from the shock of all that was happening. The Empress? She came to back Feng Ruching up? Didn't they make a lot of mess at the city gates that day? Even if that was all Feng Lianya's fault, they had still embarrassed the Empress. Why is the Emperor so kind to her now? Chapter 1590. A moment of shame for Qi Feng was a bit embarrassed. He understood that the Empress was still angry, so he did not say much and simply turned to look at the little fatty and Qi China. Chiner, you guys follow father, Lady Nan? Sister Xiao Qing. The little fatty and Qi Chiner were filled with joy and swiftly ran to Feng Ruqing. Of course, neither of them dared to act rashly in front of Nan Xian and could only look at Helian Yu. Give me that seat. The little fatty raised his chin, exuberantly. Qi Chiner did not say anything but looked at Helian Yu unblinkingly, hoping that she would give the seat to them. If it were in the past, even if Helian Yu were arrogant, she would still be quite restrained in front of the Emperor and the Empress. But now, she slammed her hands on the table and growled, "Why should I give you my seat? I stole this seat by my own merit. Why should I give it to you? Who asked you to be late?" The little fatty snapped, "I'm the prince. You're the minister's daughter, and I'm sure you'll be the one who deserves to sit next to Lady Nan. The prince deserves to be on the throne. Why are you taking this seat from me? Isn't there a seat next to Feng Lianyi? Just go to her." Helian Yu snorted. The little fatty looked back at Feng Lianyi with disgust in his eyes and turned his head again. "I don't want an ugly and fierce-looking servant to sit with me." Qi Chiner also raised her head stubbornly. "I don't want to be with Feng Lianyi either. I want to sit next to Sister Xiao Qing." She had almost died before. But Feng Ruqing had saved her life. It was because of this incident that had made Qi Chiner very dependent on her. She who had always only known how to endure had actually dared to argue in public. "Alright, all of you stop arguing," the Empress smiled faintly. "Maiden Helian, there is something that I would like to talk to Maiden Feng. Could you excuse us, please?" Well, Helian Yu still had respect for the Empress. She bit her lip and looked at a young man sitting next to her. "Me for extra chapters." The young man had just put a mouthful of pastry in his mouth, but when his eyes met Helian Yu's, he almost swallowed it in one mouthful and nearly choked to death. "Young Lady Helian, can you move, please?" Helian Yu was more polite this time, not as fierce as before. The young man was about to cry. "But there are no more seats here." "Oh, it's all right. Xiao Qing taught me a secret for cultivating. She said if one eats standing up, one can cultivate faster. Do you want to try it?" Helian Yu smiled. It would have been fine if she was more fierce, but this smile scared the young man, so he immediately stood up. The young man smiled helplessly. "Please sit here, young Lady Helian." Feng Ruqing sat in between Nan Xian and the Empress. Sitting next to the Empress in order were Helian Yu, the little fatty, and Qi Chiner. Only the Emperor was left standing alone in the banquet hall, looking somewhat uncomfortable. There was only one seat left at the moment, which was next to Feng Lian. Qi Feng still understood some sense of propriety. He smiled and turned to Feng Lianyi. "Maiden Lianyi, could you please stand up? After all, the consorts in the harem could not sit next to me at dinner. Just now, young Lady Helian said that standing could help you in your cultivation and help to control your temper." Chapter 1591. General will seek vengeance for her eye. At this moment, everyone was subconsciously looking at Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi was somewhat speechless as she stood there, stiffened. A few moments later, she finally smiled and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Helian Ying had not said a word. She only stared at Helian Yu and Feng Ruqing coldly. No one knew what she was thinking about. "Today, I have heard that Maiden Lianyi is hosting a banquet, and I have come to take a look." Qi Fang's face was cold. "There is no need for anyone to be too formal. Maiden Lianyi, you can start now." "Yes, Your Majesty." Feng Lianyi looked unhappy. She had been embarrassed for so many times in front of so many people. Fortunately, Qi Fang's last words relieved her. She cleared her throat and said, "Since everyone is already here, then," bang. Feng Ruqing suddenly slammed her plate on the ground. This sudden action frightened everyone. Even Qi Fang frowned at her. A pregnant woman, yet she still has such a temper. I don't know how her husband could put up with her. I've just told you, who said that everyone is already here? Feng Ruching slowly stood up, expressionlessly. Feng Lianya's face darkened. Maiden Feng, what exactly are you doing? I said no one could start the feast until everyone is here. You? Feng Lianya's gaze changed slightly. She was about to open her mouth when she saw a little boy with a pink-carved jade carrying a young man walk in through the door. This little boy was quite good-looking and cute, just like a little girl. It seemed that he was quite strong as he could carry such a heavy young man. However, the moment Feng Lianyi saw this young man, her face changed dramatically. She even looked panicked but forced herself to calm down. Maiden Feng, what are you doing? Feng Ruching glanced at Feng Lianyi coldly. Me for extra chapters. Before she opened her mouth, a cold voice sounded from the side. Call her Lady Nan. Feng Lianyi was speechless. She clenched her fists tightly, not uttering a word. It's you. The little fatty suddenly stood up angrily. Mother, this is the bastard who pushed my sister back then. The Empress' eyes turned cold as her gaze also fell on the young man. The entire banquet hall became quiet. Everyone's eyes were fixed upon the young man. That young man got up from the ground, crying as he pounced over to Feng Lianyi. Maiden Lianyi, save me. I've listened to your order. You can't leave me alone. You said you would protect me, and as long as I followed your order, the imperial family would not do anything to me. So please save me now. Feng Lianya's face darkened, trembling with anger. She kicked the young man aside and snapped, What are you talking about? I don't even know you. I was kind enough to help you the other day, and now you're helping someone else to harm me. Damn it. This bastard is still alive. I should have just finished him off that day. This bastard is so stupid. As long as he shut his mouth, there was no way the emperor could have blamed her. But now, he had shown up and exposed her. Maiden Lianyi, the young man raged, I wouldn't have taken the spirit herb you gave me if I hadn't been stuck at King Warrior tier for so many years. Now that everything has been revealed, you plan to make me a scapegoat. You said you had a way to get me out of this. He took out a spirit herb from his pouch and threw it at Feng Lianya's face. I don't want to lose my life just for a piece of spirit herb. I don't want your spirit herb. You must save me. Who is not afraid of death? The young man also understood the consequences of what he had done. Now he had to put all the blame on Feng Lianyi so that he could save his life. The spirit herb hit Feng Lianyi on her face. It was so painful, but she could not stop the panic inside her. Her fists were clenched tighter, and her nails dug painfully into her flesh. Your Majesty, Feng Lianyi turned around and faced Qi Feng respectfully. If you don't trust me, then think about General Tianya. I know I have made mistakes, and between Big Brother Feng and morality, I chose Big Brother Feng, but am not the kind of person who would do such a thing for my gain. Besides, the little prince has no grudge against me, so why should I take revenge on him? She was trembling inside but had to remain calm. I beg your Majesty to investigate this matter. Someone is trying to harm me. Qi Feng remained silent, and his face darkened. If what had happened to his child was planned by somebody, he had almost killed his daughter and beaten his son. Feng Lianyi, the Empress' gaze burned with anger. So it was you behind all of this. I've said that I will definitely send whoever dares to bully my son or daughter to hell. Her words carried a sense of intense hatred, making Feng Lianya's face turn pale. She lowered her head and said, I will not admit something that I didn't do. Someone must have framed me for this. Feng Ruching had an apple in her hand. She took a bite and looked at Feng Lianyi smilingly. Me for extra chapters. Feng Lianyi glanced at Feng Ruching fiercely. Her eyes were filled with hatred. Feng Ruching, I won't let you go. Your Majesty, I know that I have offended Maiden, Lady Nan. So, of course, Lady Nan hates me. I don't know what tactics she has used to have someone set me up, but I have not done it. She lifted her head and hid the resentment in her eyes. She now looked like an innocent girl, making people doubt the young man's words. Feng Lianyi was not the type of person who would deny her mistakes. If she had done it, she would indeed have admitted it. Besides, General Tianya was such an upright man, and Feng Lianyi had grown up with him, so she would not harm someone just to avenge herself. And she would never have dared to harm the little prince and the princess. Indeed, she had done something wrong before, but that was all because of Feng Lianqing. She was trying to protect Feng Lianqing and had blamed another person. With Feng Lianyi's personality, she would not do such a thing for her own good. Feng Ruqing slowly stood up from her seat and smiled at Feng Lianyi. Never harmed anyone before, right? Feng Lianyi was stunned and pursed her lips. Lady Nan, I told you I didn't do it. Chapter 1593. General will seek vengeance for her 3. The people behind you probably don't have the brains to give you any good ideas, right? Feng Ruqing asked, smilingly. Feng Lianyi's expression changed dramatically, and she looked at Feng Ruqing with fear in her eyes. It's impossible. How did she know? Is she referring to General Tianya? Yes, it must be General Tianya. Lady Nanu. Suddenly, a sword light flew over. By the time Feng Lianyi noticed it, it was too late to dodge. The sword light rushed toward her and sliced her neck, leaving a cut on her jaw. But that was only a small cut. She would have died had the sword light had sliced through her neck. The crowd was startled, and their eyes all turned to the man on the seat. The man's robe was as white as snow, cold and indifferent. When Qing'er speaks, the mouth of anyone who speaks will end up like this. Feng Lianyi closed her mouth and trembled. The jealousy that she felt right now was like ants gnawing at her heart, making it unbearable. In this life, she had never cared about any man. Nan Xian was the first. He was such a beautiful man, she had immediately fallen for him when she saw him back then. But this man, he only held a torch for Feng Ruqing, and he had also embarrassed her so many times for Feng Ruqing. If she were Feng Ruqing, how could she still look for another man? She wandered around in front of Big Brother Feng, and the kids like the little prince were also swooning over her. Me for extra chapters. Therefore, Feng Lianyi could never understand why Nan Xian loved this woman. Such a woman was not worthy of him at all. Feng Lianyi lifted her head. She smiled bitterly as her fingers brushed the bleeding cut on her jaw. Feng Ruqing squatted down and slowly picked up the spirit herb from the ground. This spirit herb was like a rose, red and bright. But it was not a rose, because there was a vermilion red fruit that seemed as vivid as blood in the center of it. Grade 7 lost fruit. Empress, call the Prime Minister over, and ask him to check if someone has gone to General Manor's storehouse to steal this lost fruit. Feng Lianyi's face changed slightly, her expression suddenly became tense, and the panic in her eyes had become somewhat impossible to conceal. Feng Ruqing took the lost fruit and smiled. Grade 7 lost fruit. Kite, a king warrior, still can't withstand the power of this lost fruit. Fortunately, you haven't taken it yet. Otherwise, I'm afraid that you would have already died violently on the spot. The young man was stunned and his face turned pale. He then rushed toward Feng Lianyi furiously. Feng Lianyi dodged to the side and kicked the young man several meters away. The young man spat out a mouthful of blood and raised his eyes, staring hard at Feng Lianyi. You want to kill me? You actually want to kill me? Feng Lianyi, you are so vicious. You will surely get your karma. Haha. The young man laughed wildly. His smile was so horrifying, full of resentment. Feng Ruqing smirked. Feng Lianyi, if I were you, I wouldn't even have wasted this grade 7 lost fruit. I would have finished him off on the spot. You really haven't done much harm before? You're inexperienced. Hearing Feng Ruqing's words, Feng Lianyi's head exploded with rage, and her eyes were bloodshot. All the calmness that she had tried to fake in front of these people disappeared completely. Chapter 1594. General will seek vengeance for her for Feng Ruqing. You're the one framing me. You're the one trying to harm me. If General Tianya knew about this, he would never let you and your people go. Ha! She knew that if the housekeeper checked the storehouse, he would definitely notice that she had gone to get the lost fruit. This time, she could not escape from this mess. However, if General were back, he would not let these people who were harming her go. Especially Feng Ruqing. General Tianya was a man of integrity. If she had made a mistake, he would punish her and even expel her from the manor. After all, she had been with General Tianya for nearly 20 years. Even if one lived with a cat for 20 years, it would still have a strong bond, not to mention a person. No matter what mistake she had made this time, General Tianya would not stand by and watch these people try to kill her. If Feng Ruqing killed her before General Tianya returned, then General would definitely avenge her and kill Feng Ruqing. Seeing Feng Lianya's angry and fearful expression, Qi Feng suddenly understood something. His face sank and his voice was cold and harsh. Feng Liany, is it you who wants to harm Yuer? Up to this moment, without having to look into anything else, one could understand that this matter was definitely related to Feng Liany. Feng Liany laughed. Your Majesty, I am a member of General Manor and General Tianya. He prioritizes his family over everything. Do you think? Between Tianling Kingdom and I, who will General Tianya choose? If General Tianya leaves this kingdom, then when the 4 kingdoms come to attack, Your Majesty, who will you send to save your kingdom? Qi Fang's face darkened. And as I said, I didn't do it. So it's up to Your Majesty to choose to trust this woman or me. She raised her hand and pointed at Feng Ruqing, the coldness that radiated from her eyes, causing the crowd to tremble. Nan Xian glanced coldly as Feng Liany pointed at Feng Ruqing. He suddenly raised her hand, and a gust of wind blew past. Feng Liany fell hard to the ground, and her arms were twisted, causing her awful pain. Cold sweat broke out over her face. Your finger almost touched Feng Ruqing. Make sure it won't happen again. Feng Lianya's face turned pale, and she bit hard her lips without uttering a word. She somehow felt like her arm was broken. Qi Fang's face sank, and it was rare for him not to speak for Feng Liany. Me for extra chapters. This time, Feng Liany had really crossed the line. His son had been framed, and if he tried to back up the person who had injured his son, what would his people say about him? Between the ruler and the minister, the ruler must be honored first. Besides, Feng Liany was not even a minister. Guards! The Empress' voice was laced with anger as she said coldly, take Feng Liany out and behead her. Everyone could feel the coldness in her words. The Empress was clearly furious this time, and no one dared to plead for Feng Liany. Empress, Qi Fang frowned. We'd better put Feng Liany in prison first, and we'll deal with her when Tianya returns. Tianya has always had integrity and would not protect her after what she has done. The Empress sneered. Since General Tianya won't protect her, there's no difference if we punish her now. I was planning to finish her off that day, but you had stopped me and asked to wait for Tianya. What happened after that? She almost killed Qiner. Empress. Qi Fang sounded helpless. He wanted to wait for Tianya because he respected him. If they settled Feng Liany without waiting for Tianya, Tianya might think that the people of Tianling Kingdom did not respect him. And if Tianya left, there was really no one to fight for his kingdom when the other 4 kingdoms attacked. Chapter 1595. They are his real family. Your Majesty, looks like you are trying to protect Feng Liany. The Empress sneered. Usually, even if she were angry, she would rarely disrespect the Emperor in front of so many people. But this time, she was clearly furious and had no time to care about his reputation. Empress, I didn't say I was going to let Feng Liany go. I am just going to imprison her and, Your Majesty. Feng Liany climbed up from the ground with a pale face. She gently closed her eyes, and only after a few seconds did she open her eyes that now were filled with determination. In this world, no one can sit down and watch his family being killed in front of him, and the same goes to General Tianya. She turned to look at Qi Fang and smiled coldly. Don't you know how furious General would be if you punish me for this woman? The entire banquet hall was silent. Even the people from General Manor did not dare to speak anything. It was because they all understood that what Feng Liany said was all true. Only the little girl from just now was still somewhat timid and spoke up, but General is a man of integrity. He won't protect someone who has made a mistake, but her timid voice could not stir any waves in the entire banquet hall. "Your Majesty!" Feng Lianyi did not even look at the girl. This time she had learned to be wise and no longer targeted Feng Ruqing but only reminding Qi Fang repeatedly. Qi Fang's face darkened. He used to think that Feng Lianyi was a good girl. Still, after the Spirit Beast Mountain incident happened, even though he no longer trusted Feng Lianyi, he always felt that she was doing this to protect Feng Lianqing. Until now, me for extra chapters. She had harmed Yuer, almost killed Qi Qiner and even threatened him in public. Fun. He was an emperor, and a woman was threatening him? Guards! Take Feng Lianyi out. Send her to prison. With this order from Qi Yu, the palace's skilled masters came from the back and surrounded Feng Lianyi. There was a flash of panic in Feng Lianyi's eyes. She had always been respected for so many years. How could she bear this kind of suffering? I can't stay there. The prison is under imperial rule, and Empress will not make it easy for me. Your Majesty! Feng Lianyi panicked, her voice was trembling. Don't you know why General wanted to adopt me back then? He had adopted Feng Lianqing because of his skills, but did he really take Feng Lianyi in just because of sympathy? There has always been a jade necklace on General's hand, and I think even Helian Yu doesn't know the origin of that jade necklace. Feng Lianyi clenched her fists tightly and gritted her teeth. General made that jade necklace for his granddaughter? Besides the housekeeper, only Feng Lianqing and I know about this. Back then, General left his home because of an accident, and even more so, he had not waited for his son to get married and have a child. General said that if his son gave birth to a boy, he would name that Qing. Later, this name he gave to Feng Lianqing. Feng Lianyi raised her head, looking at everyone around her. The panic in her eyes gradually faded away. Chapter 1596. They are his real family too. Helian Yu was stunned. She stared at Feng Lianyi while murmuring to herself, "The necklace you mentioned? I've seen it, but Grandfather Tianya is stingy and won't even allow me to touch it. Why would he give it to you?" Feng Lianyi lowered her eyes. She knew that the lies she told would be exposed once Tianya returned. But she had no other way. If she were imprisoned, she would never be able to wait for General Tianya to return, so even if the general knew about this, he would forgive her. "Sister Helen," Feng Lianyi turned to look at Helian Yu and smiled coldly. "General gave Brother Feng the name and gave the jade to me. Don't you understand this? Only the two of us are his closest relatives, and even you are not qualified enough to be part of this." Helian Yu sneered. "Nonsense. Grandfather Tianya is so stingy. He hides that necklace like a treasure. I don't believe he would give it to you. You don't have any blood relationship with him. Why would he give you the necklace?" Feng Lianyi glanced at Helian Yu coldly. "Whether General Tianya gave it to me or not, I'm the only person who can confirm it. Besides, you don't even know the origin of the jade necklace. So do you think you have any right to talk like that in front of me?" This time, Feng Lianyi did not hide her emotions as before but directly went against Helian Yu. Helian Yu's face darkened. But Feng Lianyi was right. She had always caused trouble back then, so Grandfather Tianya did not tell her these things. What Maiden Lianyi said is all true. The old housekeeper walked from outside the banquet hall. He bowed to Qi Fang and the Empress and said respectfully, "Respect to your Majesty and the Empress." Qi Fang just nodded, his face expressionless. "Get up." "Thank you, Your Majesty." The old housekeeper straightened up. "Report to Your Majesty, some time ago, Maiden Lianyi did go to the storehouse to take the lost fruit, and what Maiden Lianyi said just now is also true. General once said he took this jade stone from someone in his hometown called Tianshan Manor. General Tianya had also engraved the word Feng on the jade stone. Tianshan Manor, me for extra chapters. All Feng Ruqing's speculation was finally confirmed. General Tianya was indeed her grandfather, Feng Wuhui. When he had left back then, Gu Shi was not yet the chief of Tianshan Manor, so the old housekeeper was referring to should be the unlucky man who was defeated by Gu Shi in Tianshan Manor. And this jade stone has other uses, so I won't be able to say more. I don't know how Maiden Lianyi knew about this, but what she said is true. What the old housekeeper was referring to was about the origin of the jade necklace. However, the old housekeeper paused and frowned. Maiden Lieni, you said that General has already given you the jade? Yes. Oh, then I wonder if you could take the jade out and let me take a look at it? So that I can confirm it. Feng Lieni clenched her fists. Her palm was already covered in a cold sweat, but she still maintained the smile on her face. All right, I'll show you the necklace. Chapter 1597. Befuddled Helian Yu. Everyone's eyes were fixed upon Feng Lieni. Within the quiet banquet hall, only the sounds of the various people's breathing could be heard. I hid it in my room. Feng Lieni calmly looked at everyone. I have just sent my servant to take it, and she will bring it back soon. Feng Lieni fell silent as soon as she finished her words. She clenched her left fist tightly as her right hand was still trembling. Just now, Nan Xian had not done anything to her arm, but her right arm felt somewhat weak. Perhaps, the spirit energy that rushed to her just now had entered her body and broke her arm. Was it just because she had pointed at Feng Ruqing? Oh, ridiculous! She had always treated him with special care, and even after what he had done to her, she still wanted to leave him out of this matter. But he did not even think about her. Feng Lieni slowly closed her eyes. She could not feel any physical pain, only the pain that felt like needles in her heart, which was a little unbearable. The cold moonlight enveloped the entire Wushang city. Not far from Wushang city, an old man dressed in red was walking domineeringly under the moonlight. Lianqing, the trouble that Feng Lieni has caused these past few days is serious. No one can plead for her. When I go back, I will punish her severely. Feng Lianqing trembled as he lowered his head and smiled bitterly. All right, master. The old man's gaze was stern. Master? Feng Lianqing looked back at the old man oddly. Usually, you would always take your jade necklace out to touch and rub it. Why haven't I seen you take it out in these few days? Oh, you mean that piece of jade? I've given it to someone. Feng Lianqing almost tripped over his legs, gazing at the old man in shock. Master said, he has given the jade to someone? Me for extra chapters. That jade necklace was not only a memorable item, but it also had a special effect on gathering the spiritual qi, especially for those who had just started cultivating. It could increase the speed of cultivation and double the effectiveness. Now, he said he had given it to someone? Master, you're biased. Feng Lianqing snorted. Did you give that jade necklace to Helian Yu, or whom did you give it to? I'm your disciple. You won't even let me touch it, but you gave it away to someone else. Shut up. You're not a little child. Why should I give it to you? Tianya glanced at Feng Lieni, somewhat annoyed. Feng Lianqing stiffened. Fortunately, he was so talented back then that he was accepted as a disciple by his master. Otherwise, his master would have already driven him away, and perhaps he would not have any chance to stay in general manner like Feng Lieni. Life as a boy was not easy. His master could not have a daughter, so he was so eager to have a granddaughter. He would be so happy when he met someone's little girl that he could forgive her even if she were a little naughty. It seemed like his master was just a little stricter with Feng Lieni, forbidding her to make any mistakes. But he was more tolerant of other girls, like Helian Yu. No wonder that the people of Wushang City thought that his master was raising Feng Lieni as his own family and treating Helian Yu as an outsider. He had to be more strict with his own family. Only he knew clearly that his master actually loved little girls like Helian Yu. Simple and gullible. Somehow, Feng Lianqing suddenly remembered that Helian Yu had not been coming to him for quite a long time, and he felt a little uncomfortable about it. In the past, that little girl would follow him everywhere, and he could not even drive her away. But now, she no longer came to him, and he felt somewhat lonely. Feng Lianqing shook his head fiercely, trying to get rid of Helian Yu from his mind. In this life, he only wanted to cultivate and follow his master. He did not want his cultivation to be distracted by a girl. He was not a girl. His master would kick him out if there were no improvements in his cultivation. Silence. Tian Ya's voice was cold and stern. Feng Lianqing was stunned. He stopped in his tracks and turned to Tianya, confused. Master, I said shut up. Be quiet. Tianya's face remained cold. He sneered as his old eyes scanned the night sky. The night was calm, but it was as if this calm also carried a murderous aura. Feng Lianqing finally sensed that something was wrong. He tightened his grip on his sword with a wary look in his eyes. Since you have already come, why are you still hiding? Tianya's sneer became even more mocking. Being timid like this is not like you. Suddenly, four figures appeared out of thin air from all directions, standing above Tianya's head. The four people in front of them were all four old men, looking older than Tianya. Some with beards and hair that were completely white, and their old faces looked cold. I was just guessing just now, Tianya laughed wildly. Now it seems that it is really you four shrinking turtles. Are you afraid to fight with me? Hiding in the shadows, trying to surround me, huh? You, the white-robed old man on the left, was full of fury. Tianya, how dare you? Four of us have been waiting here for you for a long time. I thought you wouldn't dare to appear. Me for extra chapters. Tianya sneered. With just the four of you, you want to scare me? The four of you are just losers. You will forever be my dogs. 3 years will only make you more trash. Feng Lianqing wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. But can you please not taunt your enemies all before you fight? You'll make them hate you more. Tianya, another old man with a gentle face, started to speak. He was so fat and always smiled like the Buddha, Mithra. At first glance, he looked like someone who was easy to deal with, better than the white-robed old man. We came to see you. We want to talk to you. Tianya sneered. Yunhuan Kingdom, Tianqin Kingdom, Guyu Kingdom, Luli Kingdom. The 4 kingdoms' emperors personally came to find me just to talk to me? Mithra was still smiling as he gently said, Tianya, we appreciate your ability. If you come to me, I can crown you king immediately. Why do you have to waste your skills being a general to the weak emperor of Tianling Kingdom? Tianya sneered. So, Tianya, in Land of No Return, if one wants another to become an emperor, the new emperor must be at least a king warrior. Tianling Kingdom has never been stable since the previous emperor passed away. That's why he has invited you to his kingdom to help him. Chapter 1599. Befuddled Hellion U3. Mithra walked toward Tianya and smiled. So, what's the use of following this kind of trash? You're a king warrior, you can become an emperor, or it's better to follow us than to follow that kind of trash. Tianya glanced at Mithra lazily. Become an emperor? I'm sorry, being an emperor is too tiring. I'm not going to look for trouble. He gave Lu Yun Kingdom to that bastard Feng Tianwu. If he established another kingdom, he had to find another woman to have another son. It was so exhausting. Living as a general was much better, and going to war was such a small matter. He could just command Feng Lianqing to go while he enjoyed his tea and wine. Why would he burden himself by becoming the emperor when he could enjoy such a pleasant life that he had right now? Besides, if he had time, he might use it to find a way to go back to his hometown. There was no one here to miss. Instead, he still had a family in Sangyu mainland. He did not belong to this place forever. General Manor could be handed to Feng Lianqing, but a kingdom. It was better to forget about it. As for staying in Tianling Kingdom, Tianya frowned. I just need a place to settle down and have no interest in setting up my power. Furthermore, in Tianling Kingdom, even though I am a general, I have absolute freedom and the right to speak. There is nothing bad. More importantly, you guys say that Qi Feng is trash. But in my heart, there is no difference between you and him. Feng Lianqing stumbled and almost fell to the ground. He looked back at Tianya speechlessly. Initially, Feng Lianqing had thought he would say that Qi Feng is not so useless in his heart. Who knew that he had turned around and came up with a sentence like you are no different from Qi Feng. It was the same as calling all these people trash. The white-robed old man sneered. Emperor Yunhuan, why are we wasting our time with this old thing? We have worked hard to kill that old bastard of Tianling Kingdom, then came another old bastard ruining our plan. Tianling Kingdom would have belonged to us long ago. Among the four kingdoms, Tianling Kingdom was considered a heavenly treasure with unique resources. It was all because the previous emperor, Qi Fang's father, was so powerful that he had reached king warrior tier earlier than anyone else. Therefore, even if they were so jealous of him, they would not dare to do anything back then. Me for extra chapters. It was not easy. They were so happy after they had successfully killed the king warrior of Tianling Kingdom. They brought their armies to the city, and before they could enter it, General Tianya had suddenly appeared. What was more, no one would have thought that a strong man who was a king warrior would willingly come to a kingdom and become a general. This made the four emperors of the four kingdoms almost burst into tears. The most unfortunate thing was that the four emperors all had selfish intentions to rule Tianling Kingdom on their own, so they did not join forces back then. But today, they had to do it as they could not wait any longer to destroy Tianya. Qi Fang was considered lucky. In the past, he had a powerful emperor to conquer the kingdom for him, and now he had Tianya to help him protect his kingdom. Unfortunately, he did not know how to cherish them. Lianqing, Tianya looked at these old men in front of him coldly. You go back. Go back to Wushang City immediately. Make sure the people are safe. Haha. The white-robed old man laughed out loud. You just noticed that? It's a pity because it's already too late. Our skilled masters are already in the city. We will only give you one chance, surrender, and the people will be safe. But if you refuse to do so, I will make all people in Wushang City bleed to death. Chapter 1600. Befuddled Helian Yu for Tianya's face was slightly sunken. He sneered and said, You want me to submit to a ruler who killed thousands of people for his own selfishness? Haha, ridiculous. I'll never be loyal to anyone in my life. Be it Qi Fang or you. In this life, I belong only to myself. The four old men were somewhat speechless. They admitted that Tianya was indeed strong and had excellent skills. Ever since he had appeared more than 20 years ago, many legends about him had circulated in Land of No Return. Why was Tianya willing to serve as a general for Tianling Kingdom and not for them? Do you know why I follow Qi Fang? His red robes flapped in the wind as he took one step forward. Because he promised me he wouldn't initiate a war and would never abandon his people. As the ruler of a country, if you kill your people for your own selfish reasons, I'll kill such rulers if I meet them. You want me to follow you? Ha! Ask yourselves, are you qualified for this? All my life, I've only cared about the people, not the king. If Qi Fang dares to start a war for his own benefit, I will not be hesitant to kill him too. This was Tianya. No one could change him. Feng Lianqing hurriedly nodded. That's right. My master is reasonable. He's not biased. Tianya looked at Feng Lianqing coldly. Why are you still standing here? I'll stop this four trash while you go back to Wushang City first. If we're late, I'm afraid that something bad will happen to Wushang City. Feng Lianqing's face changed dramatically, and only at this moment did he realize the seriousness of this matter. All right, he gritted his teeth and turned back, rushing toward Wushang City. Somehow, when he turned around for a moment, what came to his mind was a cute and beautiful little face. He had deliberately been cold to Helian Yu these past few years. He kept a certain distance from her, thinking that in this way, Helian Yu would give up on him. But who knew that little girl would never tire and would always stick around him, no matter how cold he was to her. But now, his greatest concern was not General Manner or Feng Lianyi, but Helian Yu. However, if Feng Ruqing were so powerful, she would definitely protect Helian Yu. Me for extra chapters. Perhaps even Feng Lianqing did not know why he trusted Feng Ruqing so much. It was as if this trust was engraved in his bones. Therefore, he believed that no matter what, Feng Ruqing would not leave Helian Yu behind. Looking at Feng Lianqing's departing figure, Tianya turned around indifferently, and his cold gaze fell upon these four people. Boom! Suddenly, powerful energy was released, shaking everything under the sky. Tianya! The white-robed old man gritted his teeth. If you choose to be loyal to Tianling Kingdom, you are bound to be an enemy of our four kingdoms. Tianya slowly walked up to the white-robed old man. I've said that I, Anya, have no allegiance to anyone in this life. No matter what, you can't defeat us if the four of us join forces today," said another old man in silk robes, expressionlessly. The four of them had already surrounded Tianya. There was a monstrous and murderous intent hidden under the quiet night sky. The moonlight poured into the banquet hall of General Manor. Chapter 1601. Befuddled Helian UV servant entered the banquet hall with a box in her hand and slowly walked toward Feng Lieni. "Maiden Lieni," she respectfully handed the box to Feng Lieni. Feng Lieni held the box with both hands and carefully opened the lid. The crowd was stunned, their eyes staring nervously at the box in Feng Liani's hands. Feng Ruching touched her nose. "It's just a necklace, why do I feel as if what she's holding is a grade 9 spirit herb?" Xiao Qing. This time, Helian Yu disagreed with Feng Ruching. She looked serious. "This thing is not as valuable as a grade 9 spirit herb, but it is Grandfather Tian Ya's treasure, and also a spirit gathering stone." Gathering stone? Feng Ruching was startled. "Yes, this jade stone is a spirit gathering stone. It can help the person who carries it cultivate rapidly. Even the weakest person can cultivate and become powerful. The spirit gathering stone is so precious." Feng Ruching was stunned as she suddenly remembered the jade necklace given to her by the old man in the spiritual beast mountain, which was also made of a gathering of spirit stones. Since when could the spirit gathering stone be easily found anywhere? "My necklace!" Suddenly, a sharp shout broke Feng Ruching's thoughts. She turned and saw that Feng Liani's face had turned pale, and she looked shocked. "Whoever stole my jade necklace, give it to me immediately." Her eyes were filled with anger, and her body was trembling. When Qi Feng saw that the box brought by Feng Liani was empty, he was actually relieved. But after he saw such an annoyed expression on Feng Liani's face, he frowned a little. "It seems like she's not faking it. Could it be that this jade necklace? Has it been stolen?" The jade necklace was Tian Ya's most beloved item, and the preciousness of the gathering stone was not something that could be purchased with money. Me for extra chapters. Otherwise, Tianya would not have regarded this jade necklace as his precious item. "I've even seen this jade necklace with my own eyes before attending the dinner today, and am sure it's still there before dinner." Feng Liani clenched her fists tightly. Her face was filled with anger. "This jade necklace is not only an expensive item to me, it is an item gifted to me by General. I didn't dare to simply take it out for fear of breaking it, but I didn't expect that it would be stolen now." The old housekeeper was a little unhappy hearing Feng Liani's words. He had not seen the jade necklace before and could not confirm whether it was real or not, but Maiden Liani was claiming that someone dared to steal from General Manor. Wasn't it the same as saying that the housekeeper of General Manor was useless? Was it stolen by someone? "Maiden Liani, did you put it somewhere else? Should we look for it again?" "I'm sure no one would dare to steal from General Manor," the old housekeeper said slowly. Feng Liani's heart sank. Other people's housekeepers would only favor their masters, but this one from General Manor was embarrassing her in front of the crowd. At a time like this, he should have immediately stepped forward to help her. "This old housekeeper is useless." Feng Liani replied coldly, "Old housekeeper, I know very well where my things are kept, and am not saying that our General Manor is not well guarded. After all, there are always some people in this world who will take advantage of General Manor's trust to get what she wants." Chapter 1602. Befuddled Helian Yu 6. She was clearly indicating someone. Helian Yu was the only person who could be trusted by General Manor to come and go as she wished. Helian Yu was known as an evildoer, and people would not be surprised if it were her who stole the stone. "Feng Liani, what do you mean by that?" Helian Yu pointed at Feng Liani's face. "Make it clear to me. Who did you just say stole the stone?" No matter how foolish Helian Yu was, this time, she could see that Feng Liani was trying to accuse her. "I wasn't talking about you, Sister Helian. I was just wondering why I still had it before I came to the banquet, but now it's lost?" Feng Liani sneered. Everyone arrived early, only you came late, making me wait here for a long time. That's why I want to know why you were late. Feng Lianyi sneered. If it were not for this fool Helian Yu who was late following Feng Ruqing, she would not have been able to find any reason to accuse her. Initially, the one she wanted to frame in this case was Feng Ruqing, but unfortunately, Feng Ruqing and her people could not even get in without permission. So, the only person who could get close to her was this fool, Helian Yu. Feng Lianyi. Helian Yu's eyes were bloodshot, clearly enraged. She had been accused in front of so many people like this, and anyone who was in her position would get angry. Moreover, she was a young lady of the Helian family. Why did she have to steal something? Ridiculous. The old housekeeper frowned. Maiden Lianyi, could this be a misunderstanding? General will not trust people easily, and the fact that he accepted young Lady Helian into general manner proves that young Lady Helian is not a bad girl. Old housekeeper, Feng Lianyi was exasperated, but her face looked calm. Ask the people present what kind of person Helian Yu is. I don't mean to attack her, but if young Lady Helian is innocent, why not check inside her dress? Check her storage bag as well. Then we will know the truth. She paused for a moment and continued, after all, I'm not the kind of person who would deliberately accuse others. She hasn't left this place. If we find nothing on her, it will prove her innocence. Me for extra chapters. Qi Feng remained silent. His face was cold and sullen, not knowing what he was thinking. The Empress had long been displeased with Feng Lianyi. She slapped the table and said sternly, "How dare you, Feng Lianyi? Who permitted you to do body search in front of me?" That's right, the little fatty snorted. This little servant is getting bolder and bolder. How dare you do the body search to your master? Helian Yu is at least a noble young lady. Where do you get the guts to treat her like this? The word servant that came out of the little fatty's mouth made Feng Lianyi's face darkened. Just now, Helian Ing, who had been silent all this time, slowly opened her mouth. Sister, since Maiden Lianyi wants to prove your innocence, let her do it. I believe that you did not steal the stone. Feng Lianyi would not dare say this in front of so many people if she did not have any evidence. Moreover, even if Helian Yu did not steal it, she would still be embarrassed by it. Perhaps it was the thought of this that caused Helian Ying's mouth to twitch with an imperceptible smile. Body search? Helian Yu kicked the chair, put her hands on her hips, and said furiously, "I'm the young lady of the Helian family. Why should a servant do a body search on me?" Feng Lianyi's face was cold, her voice was filled with anger. I am not a servant. Chapter 1603, Befuddled Helian Yu 7. Oh, if you're not a servant, then who are you? General's daughter? Ridiculous. If I say I didn't steal it, it means I didn't steal it. So who dares do a body search on me? I have to do this for General. Feng Lianyi's eyes darkened, and she fiercely moved forward and pulled Helian Yu's dress. A sudden strong wind blew fiercely from the side and at Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi held Helian Yu's dress tightly and tore off her coat. Rip. An item fell from her waist, making a clinking sound. Feng Ruqing heard this sound before she could strike again. She could not help but turn her head to look, and suddenly saw a jade necklace. Feng Ruqing looked somewhat confused. She stared blankly at the jade necklace that was lying on the ground. This necklace seems a bit familiar. The entire banquet hall was silent. Helian Yu was dumbfounded as she looked at the jade necklace on the floor. A chill filled her heart and made her body stiffen a bit. But why was Grandfather Tianya's jade necklace on me? No, it wasn't me. Helian Yu panicked and hurriedly turned to look at Feng Ruqing. Her eyes reddened. Xiaoqing, it wasn't me. I didn't steal it. I don't know how it came to me. Well, I know you didn't steal it. Feng Ruqing raised her hand to touch Helian Yu's head, but a man blocked it. Xiaoqing, Helian Yu's heart that was panicking just now suddenly eased. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for making me realize that I am not alone at this moment. Of course you will believe her. Feng Lianyi got up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth, and walked toward Feng Lianqing. It's because you were plotting with her to steal my jade necklace, which was given to me by General, and I will not let go of all of you, me for extra chapters. Bang. As soon as Feng Lianyi said these words, another force surged toward her, sending her flying away again, crashing into the tables. The soup on the tables fell all over her body, and she was in a mess. Nan Xian's cold and emotionless eyes fell on Feng Lianyi's body. You're too close to my Qing'er. Qing'er does not like it. Feng Lianyi was about to speak, but the man raised his hand again and numerous sword lights came in a surprise attack. This time even if Feng Lianyi moved fast, she still could not dodge it. These sword lights cut her arms, drawing blood and staining her whole sleeve. Shao Qing, is it enough? Nan Xian, Feng Ruqing shook her head. We must not be too violent, we must be gentle, especially with girls. Gentle? Everyone was stunned. It seemed that Feng Ruqing was not fit to use the word gentle. Feng Ruqing ignored these people and turned to the Empress, smiling. Can you please pick it up? Otherwise, people will say I've switched it. The Empress was stunned. She understood what Feng Ruqing meant and squatted down to pick up the jade necklace. Chapter 1604. Befuddled Hellion U8. The spirit-gathering stone is powerful but fragile, and the thing it fears most is flames. When Feng Ruqing raised her hand, flames fiercely burned the spirit-gathering stone. The flames only burned the stone, not hurting the Empress' hand. But the scene caused everyone present to be scared silly. What are you doing? Qi Fang was also a bit furious. That's a spirit-gathering stone. This woman knows that the gathering stone could not be touched by fire, but she still uses fire to burn it? Qi Fang hurriedly wanted to go forward. However, he had just taken 2 steps when the Empress suddenly snapped. Get out of here! Qi Fang was stunned, and he subconsciously stopped moving. His eyes were filled with anxiety. Empress, do you know what that thing is? It's General Tianya's life. General Tianya was the only warrior king of Tianling Kingdom. If his most precious thing were destroyed in front of him, that old man would be sad and leave this place. Who would protect Tianling Kingdom from the 4 kingdoms then? Qi Fang was on the verge of tears. If he could, he would rather be the one who was burned on the Empress' hands. I trust Maiden Feng. You are not allowed to come over. The Empress was expressionless. Qi Fang looked serious, so was Yuer, Qing'er, and the Empress. And Feng Ruqing was also serious as she said, I will only say this one last time, call me Lady Nan. The crowd was speechless. This doesn't seem like the right time to say that, is it? This woman has destroyed General Tianya's jade necklace. When General returns, hell kill her. However, in the next moment, everyone's faces froze. The spirit-gathering stone gradually disappeared from the Empress' hands, turning into dust as if it had never existed, leaving only a necklace braided with red rope, lying in her palm. Me for extra chapters. What about the spiritual qi? The spirit-gathering stone was so powerful because the stone was made of spiritual qi. It would release all its spiritual qi when it was burned. But until now, they had not felt anything. Even Qi Fang was stunned. This necklace is fake? Feng Lianyi's face darkened. No. This is absolutely impossible. I got this necklace from General. There's nothing wrong with this necklace. It was Hellion Yu who stole my jade necklace. Hellion Yu, who had just been scared silly, was now finally able to hold her small head high again. I'm a young lady of the Hellion family. Would I steal a fake spirit-gathering stone? Feng Lianyi, when Grandfather Tianya returns, I'll tell him all about it. Feng Ruqing patted Hellion Yu's shoulder and smiled at Feng Lianyi. Are you sure that the piece just now is the jade necklace you were talking about? Feng Lianyi bit her lip. She only had this one chance today. She must not let these people go. Yes, I know how it looks like. But they just said that the piece of jade stone in Tianya's necklace is a spirit-gathering stone. Feng Lianyi sneered. The spirit-gathering stone is rare to come across. Whether it exists or not is still unclear. General told me before that he once had another jade necklace that is made of spirit-gathering stone. He left it at his home before he came to Wushang City. The old housekeeper also knows that the necklace was made for his family, so why would he bring it here? The old housekeeper was silent. Indeed, the necklace was made by General for his family and not for him. General misses his family, so he made the same jade necklace but replaced the spirit-gathering stone with an obsidian stone. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.